So welcome back to the Zoom room, Elaine. Another live session is upon us. So let's have a look today at the Song of Prayer. This is section 2.2 of it, which is on forgiveness to destroy. Which here shows cautioning us against. So we need to understand what forgiveness to destroy is. What are the versions of it, the variations, so that we can be aware of it when it happens in ourselves and let it go. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen with you. Okay. So, forgiveness to destroy, section 2.2. Shall we read it in the original and the alternative? I'll read the original, you read the alternative. Should we do it that way?
Yeah.
Okay, so forgiveness to destroy has many forms. Hang on, let me just record this. Okay, so section 2.2 of the Song of Prayer on forgiveness to destroy. Let's go for it. So forgiveness to destroy has many forms, being a weapon of the world of form.
Letting go to destroy has many forms, being a weapon of the world of form.
Not all of them are obvious, and some are carefully concealed beneath what seems like charity.
Not all of them are obvious, and some are carefully concealed beneath what seems like kindness.
Yet all the forms that it may seem to take have but this single goal. Their purpose is to separate and make what God created equal, different.
Yet all the forms that it may seem to take have only this single goal. Their purpose is to separate and make different what pure formless awareness, perfect love extends as equal.
The difference is clear in several forms where the designed comparison cannot be missed, nor is it really meant to be.
The difference is clear in several forms where the made-up comparison cannot be missed, nor is it really meant to be. From the top, letting go to destroy has many forms, being a weapon of the world of form. Not all of them are obvious, and some are carefully concealed beneath what seems like kindness. Yet all the forms that it may seem to take have only this single goal. Their purpose is to separate and make different what pure formless awareness of perfect love extends as equal. The difference is clear in several forms where this made-up comparison cannot be missed, nor is it really meant to be. So, letting go to destroy, it's saying, has many forms, but it's a weapon of the world of form. So it's not obvious, and some are carefully concealed under kindness. But the forms that seem to take have a single goal. Their purpose is to separate and be different from pure formless awareness of perfect love. Extends as equal. So the difference is clear in several forms where the made-up comparison cannot be missed, nor is it really meant to be. That last sentence. The difference is clear in several forms where the made-up comparison cannot be missed. Nor is it really meant to be. I'm not quite sure on that.
Sure what that is.
No. What is it?
They make different what pure formless awareness of perfect love extends as equal. So forgiveness to destroy is all about separation. Seemingly separating the extensions of perfect love who are really one, but now they think they're separate. And this forgiveness to destroy seems to perpetuate that separation. Difference is clear in several forms, so he's going to talk about those forms in the rest of the section, where the designed, well, I said made up in the translation, made up comparison cannot be missed. Nor is it really meant to be, right? So the ego wants you to see the differences and focus on the differences, because that perpetuates the illusion of being a separate self. And it'll call it forgiveness, but it's not forgiveness. It's an illusion of forgiveness. Forgiveness to destroy, I also call it pseudo forgiveness. It's not forgiveness at all. It just masquerades as that. It's actually condemnation and judgment, designed to separate and condemn and perpetuate the illusion of sin, guilt, and fear. All right, so let's carry on to number 2, shall we? In this group, first, there are the forms in which a better person deigns to stoop to save a baser one, quote, baser one, from what he truly is.
In this category, first there are the forms in which a better person deigns to stoop to save a baser one from what they truly are.
Yeah. Forgiveness here rests on an attitude of gracious lordliness, so far from love that arrogance could never be dislodged.
This kind of so-called letting go rests on an attitude of gracious lordness, so far from love that arrogance can never be dislodged.
Yeah, so gracious lordliness is, oh well, I'm so superior to you. You know, so I will look down upon you and lord it over you and be gracious in that. I mean, the lordliness comes from the old medieval social structure of the lords, the lord of the manor, who would then have their servants and their serfs, and everyone would, and so they would maybe be gracious to their servants and the peasants, but they lorded it over them, right? They were like, well, I'm way superior to you. I'm not, you're common riffraff, so I might be gracious to you, but you're very much, in my perception of you, inferior to me, because I'm the lord, and you're just the peasant. That's what he means. And who can forgive and yet despise?
Who can truly let go and yet despise anyone?
And who can tell another he is steeped in sin and yet perceive him as the Son of God?
And who can tell another they are steeped in sin and yet perceive them as the extension of perfect love?
Who makes a slave to teach what freedom is?
Who makes a slave to teach what freedom is?
There is no union here, but only grief.
There is no union here, but only grief.
This is not really mercy.
This is not really unconditional love.
Rather, it is death.
Rather, it is death.
Change that mercy. I'm going to change that to kindness on me. Better. So it may seem like kindness, the Lord of the Manor, who's graciously kind to their peasants, their serfs, as they were called, or their servants. But actually they're very much putting them in their place. And if they get pushed too much, then you'll see the sharp edge. If they would try and be equal to the Lord, they would be very quickly be put in their place, wouldn't they? In the old days, the servant couldn't just sit down at the dinner table with all the family and the guests. That would have been a breach, outrageous breach of etiquette, because they're not seen as equal; they're servants. And that's how it goes. So it's not really, it's actually just separation. It's not really kindness. It's actually perpetuating the illusion of being a separate self, and which is obviously leads to death, as he points out. Okay, so that one is fairly obvious to spot. It's quite arrogant and not that difficult. Another form, still very like the first, if it is understood, does not appear in quite such blatant arrogance.
Oh, another form, which is still very similar to the first, it is understood, does not appear in quite such blatantly arrogant form.
The one who would forgive the other does not claim to be the better.
The person who would let go of another's apparent sins does not claim to be better.
Now he says instead that here is one whose sinfulness he shares, since both have been unworthy and deserve the retribution of the wrath of God.
Instead, they now say they share the other person's sinfulness, since both have been unworthy and deserve the retribution of the wrath of God.
This can appear to be a humble thought and may indeed induce a rivalry in sinfulness and guilt.
This can appear to be a humble thought and may indeed induce a rivalry about sinfulness and guilt.
Yeah, I'm just changing that to about who is more sinful, who is more sinful and guilty. So this can happen. People go, oh, you think you're bad. I'm just the worst possible, I've just screwed up so badly. I've messed up. I'm such a sinner. I'm so guilty. And that can happen. That's because it's an identity. I'm more sinful and guilty than you. Or in terms of it also happens in sick people or people who are disabled. It's like, oh no, you think you've got challenges. Just wait until you hear my story. And then off they go on their story, and that story is the story of a self-concept, which often there's a very strong attachment to. If they've been sick or injured or disabled for years and they identify with that condition, then there's a big story there. And they like telling that story. And then they have to be more so, you have to be more disabled, more hardly done by, more sicker than someone else in order to be one up. It's bizarre, but that's how the ego works. If I'm more miserable, more sinful, more guilty, more sick than you, then I'm somehow better. It's crazy. Same, but that's, as long as it's better or more of something, the ego is happy. It is not love for God's creation and the holiness that is his gift forever.
It is not love of perfect love's extension and the pure formless awareness that is the gift forever.
Can his son condemn himself and still remember him?
Can perfect love's extension condemn itself and still remember it? And from the top, another form which is still very similar to the first, if it is understood, does not appear in quite such blatant, arrogant form. The person who wants to let go of another's apparent sins does not claim to be better. Instead, they now say they share the other person's sinfulness, since both have been unworthy and deserve the retribution of the wrath of God. This can appear to be humble thought and may indeed induce a rivalry about who is more sinful and guilty. It is not love for perfect love's extension and the pure formless awareness that is its gift forever. Can perfect love's extension condemn itself and still remember it?
Yeah. So what's he saying there?
Well, this is just another form, another way of saying that I'm sinful and guilty like you are, but this is in a more humble manner, and it's not so blatant. And the person who wants to let go of the other person's apparent sins does not claim to be better. So instead, they're now saying that they share the same sinful and guilt with them.
Mm.
And they both deserve the retribution of the wrath of God. But how can that be? Because we are an extension of perfect love.
Mm.
We've just forgotten it.
Yeah, it's all false. It's just designed to perpetuate sin and guilt, which is a false self-concept. And so if we believe in sin and guilt, we are forgetting who we are. And to agree with each other on that delusion is just another form of forgiveness to destroy. It destroys your true self. Apparently, you're certainly aware, your awareness of that true self. All right, so that's another form. So here is the goal. Here the goal is to separate from God the Son he loves and keep him from his source.
Here, the goal is to separate the extension it loves from perfect love and keep it from its source.
This goal is also sought by those who seek the role of martyr at another's hand.
This goal is also sought by those who seek the role of martyr because of another's actions.
Here must the aim be clearly seen, for this may pass as meekness and as charity instead of cruelty.
Here I must clearly perceive the aim, for this may pass for meekness and as unconditional love instead of cruelty.
Is it not kind to be accepting of another's spite and not respond except with silence and a gentle smile?
Is it not kind to be accepting of another's spite and not respond except with silence and a gentle smile?
Behold, how good are you who bear with patience and with saintliness the anger and the hurt another gives, and do not show the bitter pain you feel.
I try to convince myself how good I am, who bear the anger and hurt another person gives me with patience and saintliness, and do not show the bitter pain I feel.
Okay, and then from the top.
Yeah. Here, the goal is to separate the extension it loves from perfect love and keep it from its source. This goal also sought by those who seek the role of martyr because of another's actions. Here I must clearly perceive the aim, for this may pass for meekness and as unconditional love instead of cruelty. It is not kind to be accepting of another's spite and not respond except with silence and a gentle smile. I try to convince myself how good I am, who bear the anger and hurt another person gives me with patience and saintliness, and do not show the bitter pain I feel. So this is a bit of sort of bypassing, isn't it? There's feelings under all of this because we are hiding our feelings, and it may come across as meekness. So it's kind of just
Yeah.
be accepting with a bit of a silence and a gentle smile. And we try.
Yeah, but it's the martyr idea. So oh, I'm doing this, but I'm so long suffering, and I'll do it with silence and a gentle smile, but inside I'm really not happy. I'm actually resentful
Hmm.
and I'm angry, and that just perpetuates the ego. So it's not genuine. If you really let it go and you're really not bothered, then fine. But this is very very common in women, especially.
Hmm.
Women tend to be the carers and the helpers, and they'll do whatever, and they'll do it well. I've got to play the part, and I've got to be gracious, and I've got to be nice, and I've got to be kind, and I'm smiling, and I'll take all this. But then internally, they might be really angry, resentful, and quite uptight, but they just don't show it. So it's all repressed.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
and then it comes out in dysfunction. Often they'll get ill, or they'll have an explosion, and you go, where did that come from? The person was, you know, meek and mild, and then suddenly they raging and swearing, or they'll
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
has
Maybe
happened
not,
where
but
people
yes, I've
react
had.
violently, and suddenly they'll the meek mild housewife of 30 years who's been
It's just.
psychologically abused by her husband will just snap and they'll kill him, just like suddenly just kill the guy, and you go, where did that come from? There was no sign of it, but it'd been brewing. It's like the resentment and the
Hmm.
anger.
Yes.
So this is what he's getting at. This isn't true letting go. It's fake. It's a mock. It's a pretense of letting go. With silence and a gentle smile. It might seem to be, oh well, I'm just trying to help people, and I'm just trying to be the helpful martyr. But actually, the ego is very much in the victim role. Say, oh, poor me. And the internal story, internal dialogue is, oh, poor me. Oh, look at what this other person now has done to me. And again, my martyrdom just gets confirmed. I'm the innocent victim of this cruel person. And the stronger that identity gets, the more the delusion of being separate self is perpetuated, which is the ego's whole goal with any of these delusions. Okay, so yeah, any other thoughts on that? Number 4.
Oh yes. Yeah. No. I can understand that one. Yeah.
Hmm.
We all need sometimes, occasionally, have a bit of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so long suffering, and I do all of this, and and
Yeah.
and yet, I don't get rewarded, and so I'm actually the martyr,
Yeah.
and that
I've
just
experienced that. Yeah.
perpetuates the ego. And it's, as I said, it's particularly common in women because they tend to do that, be very
Yeah.
helpful, and then they go, well, what about me? And what about my own life and my own interests and goals and dreams and whatever? And
Hmm.
I've put all that aside, and I'm actually quite resentful for it. And if I nurture that grievance and that resentment, then it's not forgiveness at all, is it? Then the
No.
separate self is very much alive.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, another form of forgiveness, apparent forgiveness, it seems to be, but it's actually destroying pure formless awareness and perfect love. All right. So let's go to number 5 then. Forgiveness to destroy will often hide behind a cloak like this.
Letting go to destroy often hides behind a cloak like this.
It shows the face of suffering and pain in silent proof of guilt and of the ravages of sin.
It shows the face of suffering and pain in silent proof of guilt and the ravages of sin.
Ravages, yeah.
Ravages of sin.
Such is the witness that it offers one who could be savior, not an enemy.
Such is the witness that it offers me who could awaken rather than be an enemy to them.
But having been made enemy, he must accept the guilt and heavy laid reproach that thus is put upon him.
But having been made an enemy, I must then accept the guilt and oppressive reproach that is opposed upon me.
Is this love?
Is this love?
Or is it rather treachery to me? Sorry, is it rather treachery to one who needs salvation from the pain of guilt?
Or is it rather treachery to me who needs awakening from the pain of guilt?
What could the purpose be except to keep the witnesses of guilt away from love?
What could the purpose be in this kind of letting go except to keep the witnesses of guilt away from love? There's that, witnesses. So from the top, letting go to destroy often hides behind a cloak like this. It shows the face of suffering and pain in silent proof of guilt and the ravages of sin. Such is the witness that it offers me, who could awaken rather than be an enemy to them. But having been made an enemy, I must then accept the guilt and oppressive reproach that is imposed upon me. Is this love, or is it rather treachery to me who needs awakening from the pain of guilt? What could be the purpose be in this kind of letting go except to keep the witnesses of guilt away from love? Well, it's just saying the letting go to destroy hides behind a cloak. So it's showing the face of suffering and pain, and in a silent proof of guilt and sin. So such is the witness. There we go with the witness. So is the witness the situation we're in? It's showing us what we need to learn. Witness.
The witness that it offers me who would awaken rather than be an enemy to them. So this letting go to destroy shows the face of suffering and pain, silent proof of guilt and ravages of sin. So it gives me the witness to prove to me that guilt and sin are real.
Yeah.
But I could awaken rather than be an enemy to them. So I could see them for what they are. They're illusory, and I could let them go, rather than set myself up as, oh, well, I'm separate. I'm a separate self, and now, the suffering and this pain is a threat, and it seems to be, my enemy. And having been made an enemy, I must then accept the guilt and the oppressive reproach that is imposed upon me. So once I do this and I resist, whenever you react and you resist, you're judging, and you're making this person, the situation, an enemy. And that's the resistance reaction. So grievance, any grievance is the making of an enemy, yeah? Whether that's a person or whether it's a dog or whether it's just a situation. Oh, my dog's incontinence messed all over the place again. I can't believe it. How can this be happening to me? Why is this happening to me? I'm really angry about it. I'm really frustrated. I wish this wasn't happening to me. All of that self-talk is making the situation an enemy. And then I must accept the guilt oppressive reproach that is imposed upon me. So you're making guilt real in that, and it's quite oppressive. It's quite heavy,
Oh, yeah,
a
yeah.
heavy reproach. It's quite a heavy kind of energy, and you might be reproaching someone else, like your dog or someone who's done something, but actually the condemnation is you're experiencing that condemnation in your own energy, in your own thoughts and emotions, aren't you? So it's very
Yeah.
oppressive and quite
I
heavy.
mean, it's interesting because I mean, with my dog, I mean, she's lovely. I absolutely adore her. But it was just at that point when I came back from England, for a little while, I had this resistance. "Oh, I've got to do this," and it wasn't so much that I hated the dog; it was just frustration. Yeah, because I
No,
mean,
because life is not going as you want it to, right?
yeah,
This
yes,
shouldn't be happening. Your mind says this shouldn't be happening. Why is this happening to me? I was
you
on
don't want
a
it.
holiday in England and it was nice, and now I'm back here and it's literally shit. It's a shit show.
Well, yes, well, yes, yes, yeah, yeah,
And the mind's in resistance, and that's what
yeah,
he's talking about here. Then the mind is believing in an enemy. It's making the situation an
yeah.
enemy. It's accepting guilt in that process. It's
But
very oppressive, a very heavy kind of feeling that you get, isn't it?
it is, yeah.
When
But
you
the only thing is, yeah, it's an interesting one because I'm really very fond of this dog. I've known it since it was
Hmm.
a street dog, a puppy. So I've got feelings, and that I have a love for her in the ego sense, and also
Hmm.
obviously the Holy Spirit. But there's just a frustration. So what's whereas it might be a husband that's been beating you up for years upon years, and you've just gradually grown to hate them. That's so I can't. How do you compare that to the dog who deep down you love, and I'll do
Well,
everything to make her life
there's
comfortable.
no order of difficulty in miracles because there's no hierarchy of illusions. So,
Oh,
whether it's a grievance over your husband abusing you for years, or it's a grievance over the dog missing, it's the same thing. It's a grievance,
okay.
and it's perpetuating the illusion of a separate self, and that there's apparently there's a problem, there's guilt, and sin and fear and everything that goes with that, and that is quite oppressive. So whether you do it, if you do it in a situation with a dog, or you do it with a person, or you do it in something that seems to be much more serious, it's the same thing. What you're doing is you're denying love. You're
Hmm.
not really forgiving, and you're accepting the ego then as the truth in that situation.
Yeah.
As he says,
Again,
treachery to me who needs awakening from the pain of guilt.
yeah, because obviously in special relationships they do tend to be, a bit of a love hate. Like I mean, I'm only talking in general, but a husband. Obviously, my husband's not an abusive character, but there's
Mm.
times you're driving me mad, and then there's other times you feel very fond of him and think of the good.
Yeah, and that's special love, special hate. They're not very far apart.
No,
The
no.
equanimity, the non-reaction. It's like, well, whether you act in a kind, loving way towards me, or whether having one of your episodes and are really difficult,
Hmm.
my internal state, and therefore my love, which is
It's
that
equanimous.
pure formless awareness of
Yeah.
perfect love, is not affected, right? I'm not actually moved by any of this. So you have to learn to become equanimous in the face of whatever is
Mm.
happening in the world, which is,
Yeah.
where this
Yeah.
practice comes in. Otherwise, you just won't get it because you'll judge that person
Yeah.
unconsciously and say, well, why aren't you behaving, why are you behaving so badly?
Mm.
This
Well,
is
it's the
terrible. This
special
shouldn't be
relationship.
happening.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
And then you judge them and you go, well, that's terrible. And now I feel hurt. The separate self feels hurt because you're not giving me the love and respect that I deserve.
Mm.
And I'm justified in my grievance because look at the way you behaved.
Yes. Yeah.
And then it's just sin. You're
Because
making that person sinful and guilty, and you're projecting your guilt onto them. It's like, I'm not the guilty one. Your
mm.
mind's saying they're guilty. So God's going to punish them and not me. But
Yeah.
all of it's designed to perpetuate guilt, which is very oppressive.
But
So
it
this isn't
seems it's a little
forgiveness.
different.
It's
I
letting
feel
go to
it's
destroy.
Yeah, it's a little different though in my relationship with my dog as to my husband. But you're saying there's no order.
No, it's the same.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
using that. What the ego does is it's using that situation
Uh-huh.
albeit slightly differently, but it's the same game of denying love. So whether you're resisting the dog poo or you're resisting your husband being difficult,
Mm.
it's the same, right? Same. It's what's going on
Well,
internally
yeah.
is
Hmm.
actually the same. You're denying pure formless awareness of perfect love, and you're accepting the ego in its place in that
Mm.
moment. So that's why he's saying, you understand, that's why there's no hierarchy of illusions. They're all the
Yeah.
same because
Hmm.
they do one thing. They deny love and they deny who you are and they perpetuate the illusion of a separate self. You see
Yeah.
that? And that's
Oh,
why there's
yeah.
no
Yeah.
difficulty
Yeah.
in miracles because you can let them all go equally easily, whether it's, the dog, you let go of that resistance that you have to the dog poo or let go of your resistance to your husband's behavior. It's the same letting go. And you really
Yeah.
just denying the illusion. You're saying this illusion does not have the power to affect me. I'm
Yeah.
not going to give
Yeah.
it that power. I'm going to
Mm.
stay in my higher self in this equanimous state that is not affected by any of these illusory happenings. And that's
Yeah.
the mind training.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yes, as I say, the equanimous, but for like I say, the dog, I have got a great love for her. I do have a great love for the dog. So I do
Yeah,
a
but is that
transition
is that is that is that a holy love? Is that unconditional love? Um,
unconditional, unconditional.
or well, you'll be tested on that, won't you? Because when the dog dies, as she will inevitably,
Yeah. Yeah.
then you might feel sad. Quite possibly you will, and then there'll be a
Yeah.
letting go of that, because that special relationship is then over. And what it represents then to the ego is, well, this is a part of your life that's over. You've had that dog since she was a
17 years.
puppy, you've seen
Yeah.
her grow up, grow old, and that's the passing of a good portion of your life with
Yeah.
her, and
Yeah.
that's gone. And then we
Mm.
mourn that because we want to hold on to these situations, but obviously they
Yeah.
don't. And life
Mm.
moves on. And
Oh.
death reminds us of that nothing here is permanent and you can't actually
Mm.
rely on any of it because
Mm.
it's all going to change and fade away and be gone at some point, including you.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
your
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
life will end at some point. So it reminds
Of
us of
course.
the
Yes, of course.
mortality of the ego and that can be quite difficult. Or it can be an opportunity to let go on another level, accept the truth of your divine awareness that's eternal.
Mm.
The equanimous awareness that's not moved by any of the appearances is where you want to go always,
Yeah. Hmm.
rather than all of this. All of this is just a game of smoke and mirrors. You make someone an enemy, you believe that they really are your enemy, so you believe in guilt and sin, or you're superior to them, um, or you're the martyr. It's all just a false self, isn't it? It's a false self concept
Mm.
that you're perpetuating through your thoughts and emotions, and you're calling that the behavior that's associated with that self-concept forgiveness, but he's saying, no, that's not forgiveness at all. This is an illusion of forgiveness. It's forgiveness to destroy, as he calls it, to destroy the true self of who you are and convince you that you're this false self. Okay, so let's carry on, shall we? Number 6, forgiveness to destroy can also take the form of bargaining and compromise.
Letting go to destroy can also take the form of bargaining and compromise.
I will forgive you if you meet my needs, for in your slavery is my release.
I will let go of your sins if you meet my needs, for in your slavery is my release.
Say this to anyone, and you are a slave.
If I say this to anyone, I am a slave.
And you will seek to rid yourself of guilt and further bargains which can give no hope, but only greater pain and misery.
And I will seek to rid myself of guilt in further bargains which give no hope, but only greater pain and misery.
How fearful has forgiveness now become, and how distorted is the end it seeks?
How fearful has letting go now become to me, and how distorted is the end it seeks.
Have mercy on yourself who bargains thus.
I, who bargain in this way, must unconditionally love myself.
Let's put a comma in there. I bargain this way. Unconditionally love myself instead. Okay, let's change that. All right. God gives and does not ask for recompense. Number 7.
Yeah. Pure formless awareness of perfect love gives and does not ask for compensation.
There is no giving but to give like him.
There is no giving but to give like pure formless awareness of perfect love.
So yeah, it's all else is mockery.
All else is mockery of it.
For who would try to strike a bargain with the Son of God and thank his Father for his holiness?
For who would try to strike a bargain with the extension of perfect love and thank its source for its innocence? And from the top, letting go to destroy can also take the form of bargaining and compromise. I will let go of your sins if you meet my needs, for in your slavery is my release. If I say this to anyone, I am a slave, and I will seek to rid myself of guilt in further bargains which give no hope, but only greater pain and misery. How fearful has letting go now become to me, and how distorted is the end it seeks. I, who bargain in this way, must unconditionally love myself instead. Pure formless awareness of perfect love gives and does not ask for compensation. There is no giving but to give like it. All else is mockery of it. For who would try to strike a bargain with the extension of perfect love and thank its source for its innocence? So here's another form of letting go. It's bargaining and compromising, because then it'll let go of our sins if our needs are met. So in their slavery is my release. If I say this to anyone, I'm a slave. So
Yeah.
I'll rid myself of guilt.
I will forgive you if you meet my needs. Okay, so you meet my needs and then I'll forgive you. Otherwise, I withhold my forgiveness.
Mm, mm,
And then you're a slave because what if they don't meet your needs? And quite probably they won't in your judgment. And so then you hang on to the judgment and you hang on to the guilt and you're a slave to the ego. And seek to rid yourself of guilt in further bargains which can give no hope, only greater pain and misery. So if you're doing this, he's saying, have mercy on yourself. Stop this madness. There is no giving but to give like him. So giving is unconditional. It's like you give unconditionally, or it's this kind of forgiveness to destroy. We would try to strike a bargain with the Son of God and thank his Father for his holiness. So these are common patterns. You can recognize these things in yourself, in other people, and he's highlighting them. He's saying, just look at it and see it for what it is, and don't be fooled by it any longer, because it is not love. It's not true forgiveness, and it's not going to work. You're never going to find awaken this way, and just stay asleep. and dreaming in the dream of sin and guilt and death. All right. Happy to go on to number 7.
Yeah.
For what would you show your brother?
What do I want to show my companion?
Would you try to reinforce his guilt and thus your own?
Would I try to reinforce their guilt and therefore my own?
Forgiveness is the means for your escape.
Truly letting go is the means for my escape.
How pitiful it is to make of it the means for further slavery and pain.
How pitiful it is to make of it the means for further slavery and pain.
Within the world of opposites, there is a way to use forgiveness for the goal of God and find the peace he offers you.
Within the world of opposites, there is a way to use letting go for the goal of perfect love and find the peace it offers me.
Take nothing else, or you have sought your death and prayed for separation from yourself.
I will accept nothing else, or I will have sought my death and asked for separation from myself.
Christ is for all because he is in all.
My true self is for all because it is in all.
It is his face forgiveness lets you see.
Letting go helps me understand its identity.
Yeah, it is his face forgiveness lets you see. Yeah. It is his face in which you see your own.
Then I will perceive my own identity in its. And from the top, what do I want to show my companion? Would I try to reinforce their guilt and therefore my own? Truly letting go is the means for my escape. How pitiful it is to make of it the means for further slavery and pain. Within the world of opposites, there is a way to use letting go for the goal of perfect love and finding the peace it offers me. I will accept nothing else. I will have sought my death and asked for separation from myself. My true self is for all because it is in all. Letting go helps me understand its identity. Then I will perceive my own identity in its. It's just asking us, what do we want to show our companion? Do we want to reinforce their guilt as our own? So letting go is the means to escape. So it seems very silly to make it the means for further slavery and pain. Within the world of opposites, there is a way to use letting go for the goal of perfect love. And we're going to accept nothing else because our true self is for all, because it is in all. So we understand its identity, and then we will perceive our identity in its.
Yeah. So he's kind of saying it's all or nothing. You can't say you're letting go and then not let go. It's got to be genuine. So don't be fooled by these false forms of it. You're not really letting go if you're doing any of this. It's about truly letting go of the separate self concept, and that separate self concept continues as long as you believe in guilt and sin and pain and misery and suffering and death. As long as you play these games that he's talked about, you're not really letting go, are you? So what he's doing here is eliminating all of the games that the ego plays and highlighting them for us so that we can't be fooled anymore. So it becomes very clear, what it is and what it does. And then we can truly let it go. Say, I'm done with the games. I'm done with, I mean, when he highlights these so graphically and he talks about, how you bargain and you compromise and um, hide behind a cloak of martyrdom, and all of these strategies, it seems ridiculous. You're like, well, how could I believe that approach could ever work
Mm,
to bring me or anyone else happiness? But unexposed, when you don't bring it to the light, these patterns continue
mm,
until you bring them to the light of truth, and then they do look ridiculous, and you say, well, how could I have ever believed in that? Because it's clearly dysfunctional, doesn't work, it's never going to work. And so I've just been hitting my head against the brick wall for a long, long time and suffering as a result
mm.
by doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. All right, so number 8, it's last paragraph, and then there's just a summary to do. All forms forgiveness takes that do not lead away from anger, condemnation, and comparisons of every kind are death.
All forms that letting go takes that do not lead away from anger, condemnation, and comparisons of any kind are really death.
Well, that is what their purposes have set.
For this is what their purposes have set.
Be not deceived by them, but lay them by as worthless in their tragic offerings.
I will not be deceived by them, but instead let them go as worthless in their tragic offerings.
You do not want to stay in slavery.
I do not want to remain in slavery.
You do not want to be afraid of God.
I do not want to be afraid of perfect love.
You want to see the sunlight and the glow of heaven shining on the face of earth, redeemed from sin and in the love of God.
I do not want to I do not want to be afraid of perfect love. I want to see the sunlight, the glow of perfect love shining on the face of earth, redeemed from sin in pure formless awareness of perfect love.
From here is prayer released along with you.
From here, prayer is released along with me.
Your wings are free, and prayer will lift you up and bring you home, where God would have you be.
My wings are free, and prayer will lift me up and bring me home, where pure formless awareness of perfect love wants me to be. And from the top, all forms that letting go takes that do not lead away from anger, condemnation, and comparisons of any kind are really death. For this is what their purposes have set. I will not be deceived by them, but instead let them go as worthless in their tragic offerings. I do not want to remain in slavery. I do not want to be afraid of perfect love. I want to see the sunlight and the glow of perfect love shining on the face of earth, redeemed from sin in pure formless awareness of perfect love. From here, prayer is released along with me. My wings are free, and prayer will lift me up and bring me home, where pure formless awareness of perfect love wants me to be. So this is a nice finish to the prayer. So it's just saying all forms of letting go. If it doesn't lead us away from anger and condemnation and comparisons, then it's saying it's like a death. And so we're not going to be deceived anymore by it, but instead let them go for their tragic offerings. And we don't want to remain in slavery anymore. We don't want to be afraid of perfect love. We want to be able to see the sunlight and the glow of the perfect love, and redeemed from sin, and released from all of that into the wings and freedom, and prayer will light up us back home, back with pure formless awareness of perfect love, where it wants us to be.
Very uplifting, inspiring passage. at the end here, just to again tell us the truth, to motivate us to keep going. As difficult as some of these patterns can be to navigate through, he's saying, there is a way to let go of them, and what comes beyond them is heaven, is ultimate reality, which is all that you really want. Every person and every sentient being yearns for that place of pure awareness. It's just happy, peaceful, loving. It's one with its source. It doesn't have to deal with any difficulties, any traumas, any pain, any suffering, any sickness, any death. All of that's over. And just rest in that peaceful state. So I find it very inspiring, and motivates us to keep going on the path. All right, so let's do the summary if you've got time. I know you said 30:30. Can you go for another 10 minutes?
Yeah, I can do 10 minutes, yeah.
No. Yeah, okay. So should we alternate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Right, so you read the odd ones. You read the first one.
Right. Letting go to destroy a weapon in the world of form takes many forms, not all of which are obvious. Some forms are disguised as kindness, but their ultimate goal is to separate and differentiate from pure formless awareness of perfect love, created to be equal. These forms can range from overt arrogance to far more subtle forms.
Okay, so what's he saying there? Briefly in summary.
We can just take many forms, this letting go to destroy, and one of them can be overt arrogance, and others in more subtle forms. So it's disguised as kindness. Its goal is to separate and, differentiate from this pure formless awareness.
And then he goes into the forms. So one common form involves a supposed, quote, better person condescending to save a, quote, baser one, which is an attitude far removed from genuine love and steeped in arrogance. This is not true letting go, but a reinforcement of separation and superiority. Another similar form is where someone claims to share in another's sinfulness, promoting a false sense of humility and fostering guilt, rather than genuine love for perfect love's extension. So he's just given us two forms there. Of the ego in action, trying to really save its separate self. When both of those forms perpetuate the illusion of a separate self, don't they?
Mm.
They're actually far removed from genuine love. First one is very arrogant. Another is falsely humble. So you got the extremes, arrogance and then seemingly humble, but it's false sense of humility, because it just creates the illusion of a separate self, of guilt, that you're a victim and that you're just more of a victim than someone else. So it perpetuates the false idea that you're a victim of the world and that you're suffering as a result. And so none of that's genuine love, perfect love's extension. It's all forms of ego. But as you learn these things, it becomes clear what the ego is. It's a separate self concept. Whatever strengthens that separate self concept is then coming from the ego. That's the rule of thumb. Does it strengthen the sense of being a separate self? If yes, then it's egoic. If no, then it's coming from the Holy Spirit. Simple as that. Okay, next one. These approaches aim
to separate the extension it loves from pure formless awareness of perfect love, keeping them from their source. This separation is also sought in the guise of martyrdom, in which accepting another's spite and attacks is misconstrued as kindness, but in reality, it is a form of self-deception and self-punishment. So this is another one. of kindness coming across as kind, but it's just a self-deception and a self-punishment because it's still separating. It's just come in this guise of martyrdom. So it's just accepting the other's spite and attacks, but is misconstrued as kindness.
Again, martyrdom is a sense of being a victim, separate self. So letting go to destroy can also take the form of bargaining, where one person's letting go is conditional upon their needs being met by another, leading to further pain and misery. This distorted form of letting go becomes a tool for reinforcing guilt rather than letting it go. So you have to meet my needs, we say, otherwise I won't forgive you. And then you're setting up a situation where your forgiveness is reliant on externals. And as soon as you do that, you're reliant on the externals. You're going to enslave yourself to the ego. It's an unconditional letting go without exceptions. That's what we're being asked to do. It doesn't matter what seems to be happening, what any person has done or hasn't done. It's all illusion, right? None of it's true. Whatever they've done. That's why there's no order of difficulty in miracles and no hierarchy of illusions. They're just images in a dream which don't really exist. But it takes a lot of mind training to just see it like that, because the images seem to be real and quite important and seem to affect us. Okay, next one, true letting go should be a means of escape.
True letting go should be a means of escape from guilt, not a method for perpetuating it. In the dualistic world of opposites, there is a way to use letting go aligned with the goal of perfect love to find the peace it offers. It should lead away from anger, condemnation, and destructive comparisons. I should recognize all forms of letting go that do not lead to this liberation as being forms of death and let them go. So it's just talking about truly letting go.
Yeah.
It's not.
So the ego's just got all this bogus stuff going on. It's trying to convince you it's letting go, but it's not, if you're honest about it. So remember the second requirement of God's teachers, second characteristic is honesty. You got to be really honest with yourself about all this stuff and see that, a lot of the things that you thought were letting go, that you thought were actually helpful, were not and are not. They're actually just keeping you enslaved to your ego, and you have to let them go. I need to let all forms of apparent letting go that do not lead to this liberation as being forms of death, and let them go, right? So form of death, it's not genuine letting go. It's forgiveness to destroy. It's pseudo-forgiveness. It's just the ego in another disguise. And the only way out of that is to let go of my belief in it and say, I don't buy this anymore. I don't believe this. I'm willing to let it go and allow the truth that lies beyond it to arise in my mind and in my awareness. Okay, so in my essence, I seek to see the sunlight and the glow of perfect love shining on the earth, redeemed from sin and in pure, formless awareness of perfect love. This is where prayer is truly released, freeing me from sin and guiding me home to the state of pure formless awareness in which perfect love wants me to rest eternally. Yeah, thoughts about that?
Well, that's much better. This is where we're going to be going. We want to rest in this eternal peace of perfect love. And we're released.
Yeah.
Free from the sin and the guilt and back home.
Yeah. Sunlight of true awareness, we'll call it. So the light is really true awareness. The sunlight of true awareness and the glow of perfect love. Nice imagery, shining on the earth, redeemed from sin, and in pure forms the oneness of perfect love. And then prayer is released. This is where prayer is truly released, freeing me from sin and guiding me home to the state of pure formless awareness in which perfect love is. And prayer is released along with you. So prayer, what he's saying is prayer is the need for prayer. This is where I no longer need prayer. Frees me from sin. Means I'm free from sin and at home in the state of pure formless awareness, in which perfect love wants me to rest eternally. Just read that read that last.
I'd better make it, yeah, because I'm going to have to dash because we're supposed to be leaving here at 4:45. So I'll just quickly go.
Yeah, okay. So we just got the key message then. Just read that last sentence and then the key message.
Yeah. This is where I no longer need prayer, which means I am free from sin and at home in the state of pure formless awareness in which perfect love wants me to rest eternally. And the key message, letting go to destroy in its various forms aims to separate and judge others in contrast with the unity and equality intended by pure formless awareness of perfect love. True letting go leads me away from guilt, anger, and condemnation, guiding me towards peace and ultimate freedom in the state of pure formless awareness in which perfect love wants me to be eternally. Yeah, that's good.
So, yeah, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, that was very good. Yes, it's just keep practicing and discipline and recognizing these things in ourselves.
Just recognize the patterns. And that's what this is about. Okay, so that's not really forgiveness at all. If I'm doing any of these false forms of forgiveness to destroy, it's just actually destructive. And I need to be aware of it and let it go. Forgive myself means I'm just letting go of those patterns. I don't need to play those patterns anymore. And I don't need to do it. And I realize that it does take a lot of mindfulness, a lot of discipline to be aware of them and then let them go. But that's the practice. Okay, so shall we leave it there, Elaine? All good. Hope you have a nice evening and see you again. Yeah, so what's happening tomorrow? Could we do Friday, maybe? Friday afternoon? That work?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, I think I've got a meeting at about 1. So let's do 2 o'clock Friday.
Yeah.
Till
that's
4:30, if that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks, Elaine.
thank you.
See you then.
Namaste. Bye.
Okay. Namaste.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so that's a wrap for today. Thank you for watching or listening. If you watched the live stream or the recording, to get access to more of these videos, just subscribe to the channel. And you can also go to lifebuild.com and see that in the background of the screen, or there's a link below in the text box, the message attached to this video, where you can click on it and go there, subscribe to receive our daily Telegram message, which includes a daily quote and some mind training material, some comments on that. It's kind of a blog post associated with that, plus a lesson from A Course in Miracles in original alternative form, in the same way as you saw today's section of the Song of Prayer, plus a section of the text or the manual for teachers, and then the Song of Prayer and the psychotherapy supplement is also included. And you'll get some meditations, longer meditations, and a shorter, what I call breath breaks, to help you practice the lesson in longer and shorter form throughout the day. And also invitations, notifications, invitations to join the live sessions. So you can do that all free of charge at lifebuild.com. So check it out. Hope to catch you on the inside of the group. You will need Telegram installed on your mobile device. It's an app you can get from the App Store or download it from the Google Play Store if you use Android, an Android phone. And you can also join us in the Zoom room, which once you're on the group becomes easy, because I just include the invitations and notifications about the times every day and the links to join in that in the messages on the group. So yeah, take the next step. We're starting the program again from day one in less than a month, so now's a good time to join. I hope to catch you on the inside soon. Thanks a lot for listening and watching, and namaste, which means the truth in me acknowledges and honors that same true self in you. And wishing you much love, peace, and joy in that self. Hope to see you soon.